All right, folks, hello. It is now 1 o'clock. Yeah, loving to see all the different places that people are logging in from across the continent. And we are about to get started. And for those of you that arrived on time, I've got a special video to show you that will introduce my two coworkers. And so just a little fun video to share. And it is also a chance for you to check to make sure that you can see the subtitles at the bottom. So just check for that as we're watching this video, and then we will get started.
Hola, si estás viendo este video, posiblemente ya no esté más en este mundo. Solo quiero decir que esto es culpa tuya porque vos hiciste que esto pasara.
Fue tu decisión, Ton. Vos, nadie te obligó, yo te había dejado el asiento, o sea, este es tu lugar, pero bueno.
¿Qué es bueno de todo esto? Es que no tendré que pagar mis deudas. Eso incluye la computadora, lo siento. No, la verdad no lo siento. Creo que vamos a menos de 15 kilómetros por hora. Hace poco nos rebasó una anciana en silla de ruedas y dijo que nos gritó que nos amaba, aunque hizo una señal con uno de sus dedos. Creo que nos estaba expresando su amor. Saludos a todos.
Just a little fun video. My name is Sarah Burks-Brake-Kane. I am the director here at Chispa Project. The two people in that video are my coworkers, Tone and Dunya, who are just going to turn on their microphones and cameras now to introduce themselves. They sent me that video as a joke, but I thought it was a good way to introduce you to their kooky sense of humor that they will now never live down. But truly, we are a tight-knit group here, and as you saw in that video, we spend a lot of time on the road around Honduras because we love and believe in what we do. We are also a small team because our work is mostly volunteer-driven, mostly by local volunteers in each community who run their own libraries, but also international volunteers who come to assist. So really glad to have you all, as this is the one time a year we get together to show you what we've been up to and can answer any questions. So I will now introduce my coworkers who are getting on and to say hello.
Hola, mi nombre es Dunya Estrada y trabajo con Proyecto Chispa.
This is Dunya Estrada, and she works at Chispa Project. And she is the one that's learning how to drive right now. ¿Estás aprendiendo cómo manejar?
Sí, bueno, estamos trabajando este año siempre con las escuelas que ya conocemos y seguimos apoyando en lo que más podemos.
So we are continuing to work with schools this year and helping out as we can. And Tone? Oh, Tone, your mic.
Hi, sorry. My name is Don, and I'm so happy to have all of you here in this meeting.
Great. So I will let them log off here, and we will go ahead and get started with our meeting. And again, thank you for everyone for coming. This year has been especially interesting, so we'll be sharing how 2020 went for us and all the way to the special plans we've been working on for 2021. So I can see that there are lots of folks now signed on. We're just going to run a quick poll, and I want to know, out of all the folks that are here today, have you been to Honduras? So go ahead and click on your answer there. Do you live here? Have you visited, but next time you'd come with Chispa? Have you come with us before as a volunteer or not yet? Who do we have? All right, a few folks that live here, a few folks that have visited before. Great. And several who haven't come yet, which is great. All right, and I'm going to add one more poll to go ahead and answer. Give you one more chance. Let's see here. All right, I want to know how you know about Chispa Project. Lots of answers coming in, great. Some prior volunteers, some folks that partner with us. So that's a big way that we are able to work all across the country and get to know schools that we could not otherwise know, is by partnering with different organizations. So we're always looking for new folks, organizations, or if you live here, for recommendations on communities that you think would benefit from a library and have a little chispa, have a little something to be able to start their own library with us. So great answers. Well, today, folks, we are going to be covering a few different things. First, I'd just like to give a shout out, especially for all the readers that are here this week from Chaplain Norris. That's my father, and so always good to have family on your side. And he runs a syndicated column that is across the country, and so a lot of folks are here from that, which is great. And we also have several folks that we work with that are, again, from partnering organizations. So thank you for all your support. It comes in various forms of whether you volunteered or helped donate or are simply here to find out more. We are really glad to have you. So hello, everyone. And thank you for being here. So our agenda today is going to cover 3 parts. First, we're going to talk about, you've heard this cliche about hindsight of 2020 and the playoff of that and the year 2020. But truly, we have a lot to look back on. And then we'll be talking about COVID effects on education here in Honduras. And we've really worked hard to bring some Honduran viewpoints for you today. So hopefully those subtitles worked on that last video we put in, because we wanted you to hear from local community members, both teachers and parents, of what school looked like here this past year and what it's going to look like this year. And finally, we're looking forward to 2021. We are ready to put 2020 behind us. And although here in Honduras, we do not yet have any confirmation of when the vaccine will arrive, 2021 is still a new year, and it's still something we're looking forward to, just exploring how we can better help kids in education this year as schools remain closed. So those are the 3 things we're going to be covering today. Please ask questions. So in that chat where you introduced yourself, go ahead and ask any questions that you have. I see a couple people are having issues with audio, and I think it's on your end, but let me know, and I will, we can decide as a group if there's something that I'm doing wrong, but otherwise it's probably just up to our local internet sources. So please ask questions and we'll go ahead and get started. So the first part is, again, just looking back at 2020 and what that looked like for us. It was a tough year, and normally, as you may or may not know, Chispa Project donates and installs school libraries. Children's books are incredibly expensive and hard to find here, and so those libraries are often children's first access to children's literature. We run a holistic training program that trains local community members to run their libraries, and we provide assistance throughout the year. And we do targeted workshops for teachers, parents, and students to know how to best use their children's books. We also inaugurate each library with a big celebration where parents and teachers get to put their new knowledge to use by running a day full of activities and crafts. So this year was very different this past year. The school year generally runs February through November. So for example, in fall of 2019, we started working with schools to prepare to install their libraries when school started in 2020. February of 2020, we hit the ground running, and 6 weeks later, it all comes to a halt. So this is what we are looking back on in 2020. So dear friends, and that's why we're so grateful to have you encouraging us at every step. Before COVID hit, 2020 started with a bang, really. We had 3,334 more students who were ready to get a school library. That included 5 new library projects, as well as a mobile library project that covered 10 tiny schools in a rural mountain school district. We had several groups of international volunteers. And then COVID hit in the middle of our biggest library inauguration to date. Also in November 2020, 2 hurricanes swept across Honduras within weeks of each other. Despite it all, it being a rough year, we have lots of things that we are grateful for. During the lockdown here, we worked primarily from home, and that strengthened our communication skills and kept all our family members, our team members and their families safe. We were able to change direction fairly quickly. We got creative, reached out to our network of schools to see how we could help. Cheeseburger Project delivered over 2,500 pounds of supplies to families of students who lost their homes in the hurricanes. Schools were desperate, from everything from printers and paper to hand sanitizers and masks. That was the feedback we got in polls. And so we were able to help get 12 schools emergency funding for extra school supplies and biosecurity measures. So you helped raise thousands of dollars for these emergency grants, and that included covering 3,345 activity books. In 2020 alone, we donated over 10,000 books thanks to you. So thanks for sticking with us. All right, folks, I'm hearing there might have been some problems with audio, but I just read the comments on that one, and so hopefully that's the only time you'll have trouble with the audio. Now, are we hearing okay? So that is what most of our year looked like last year, was just trying to turn around quickly and make a difference for schools. Schools were on lockdown. The entire country was on lockdown. There was very strict access to be able to leave your house. It depended on the number of your social security number. And that continued throughout the year until the hurricanes hit. And that was kind of the excuse to open things back up. And so I do want to talk a little bit more about the hurricanes, because it was such a big impact on our team last year. The 2 hurricanes that came through were devastating. And it left our team really demoralized and really wondering how we were going to make a difference with COVID, and then these 2 hurricanes coming through. And thanks to groups and organizations and friends who really chipped in to a big campaign that we ran to help people affected by the hurricanes, we were able to make a small difference. And so that's what I just want to share with you now of what the hurricane effects looked like at the end of last year. This video is from one of the communities that we worked with and kind of their story. So I want to focus at, as we think about how distressing this past year has been, I want to then not ignore the distress that we've been in and the distress that this country continues to be in because of COVID. But I do want to focus on this idea of what's said here as a grain of sand. And in Spanish, it's said that everyone just needs to give a grain of sand to make a difference. And honestly, we've been so blown away by everyone's generosity this year that have continued to help us work in work that is vital to students across the country. All it takes is a grain of sand, and you all answered the call. And so I can't emphasize enough that no matter what kind of support you can offer to Chispa, to Honduras, to the kids here, it makes a difference. And so we are just very grateful for the work that we were able to complete last year, despite all the challenges. And I'm very proud of my team. As some of you may have seen in the beginning intro, my whole team went part-time last year to help us continue. So just grateful for the way everyone pitched in including our Chispa team. So that's what 2020 looked like. Now let's talk about this thing that is education here. So COVID has been a challenge for education across the globe. If you look for what has worked for teachers in any region, there's not been really any outstanding great solutions except give kids internet and a computer, and that will be helpful. But as I'm sure some of you who are teachers are like, well, yeah, but you give a first grader that, and that's not really helpful. So there's just been no great answers for COVID, and that's been doubly difficult here. And so the video I'm about to show you is students, parents, and teachers talking about what education looked like. And my coworker, Tone Rodriguez, is going to do the introduction comments on that.
¿Qué sueños tenés?
Ser feliz.
Ser feliz. ¿Y qué crees que necesitas para ser feliz? ¿Qué sueños tenés?
Ser feliz.
Ser feliz. ¿Y qué crees que necesitas para ser feliz?
Necesito estudiar.
Hola, mi nombre es Ton, de Proyecto Chispa.
Este año hemos estado trabajando con las escuelas. Ha sido particularmente retador, puesto que nos encontramos en plena pandemia. Ha venido no solo a incrementar el desafío que representa la educación en Honduras, sino que ha venido también a evidenciar todos los problemas que viene arrastrando desde hace muchos años atrás. Ha sido difícil a través de los años por la falta de materiales, la falta de insumos, libros de texto o las mismas instalaciones de los centros educativos han representado pues un reto para la educación en Honduras. Ahora, cuando viene la pandemia del COVID, pues por cuestiones sanitarias se tienen que cancelar las clases presenciales y pues como dije anteriormente, esto realmente dificulta el acceso a educación en un país con más del 68% de personas viviendo en pobreza. La calidad de la misma educación también es algo en lo que hemos tratado de trabajar y apoyar con el proyecto Chispa a través de los libros, pero la situación es particularmente distinta y difícil para los padres, ya que en Honduras no es un país donde las personas tengan computadoras en sus casas. También el acceso a internet es muy limitado, no solo porque no puedan pagar un servicio, sino porque la cobertura del servicio de internet, antenas y todo esto es muy limitada en el país. Hay muchas familias que tal vez poseen un teléfono para toda la familia, entonces pues el reto se incrementa porque a pesar de poder tener un dispositivo, hay familias que tienen 3, 4 hijos o hasta más en edad escolar y deben de compartirse el teléfono para acceder a sus tareas. Lastimosamente el gobierno pues no ha logrado montar una estrategia para atender este desafío de educación en tiempos de pandemia. Este año 2021 el reto es que muchos padres han presionado a los docentes para que sus hijos puedan ir de manera semipresencial. Es un año político en Honduras. Lastimosamente eso también ha opacado la crisis que se vive en el sistema de educación. No hay un interés realmente por atender esta situación. La gente que está aprendiendo por sus propios esfuerzos, porque realmente quiere y no porque tiene el apoyo, el mínimo apoyo que el gobierno debería de estar brindando. Los docentes están en muchas ocasiones entre la espada y la pared, en que tienen que atender lo que la autoridad en educación ha dicho, que no se puede volver a clases, pero también saben la necesidad, la viven diariamente al tener contacto con sus alumnos, de que el sistema no está funcionando al 100%, no es de calidad. Todos estos hechos hacen que la situación sea muchísimo más complicada de lo que ya veníamos trabajando con anterioridad.
Buen día, mi nombre es Karina Baiza, sobreviviente de COVID, pandemia que nos vino a cambiar la vida, nos vino a cambiar la vida de nuestros hijos, de nuestra familia. Gracias a Dios estoy viva, con muchas secuelas, afectó todo mi entorno, toda mi familia, situación económica, pero lo más difícil es el cambio que hubo en los niños. La maestra manda por Zoom, ha sido difícil porque yo no tengo wifi en mi casa, entonces había que estar comprando, a veces se tenía para comprar, otras veces no. Yo siempre probé para esos 20 lempiras para comprar ese WhatsApp, para que los niños salgan adelante, para que ellos pues puedan superarse y puedan ser mejor que sus padres. Y mi esposo el año pasado quedó sin trabajo. Yo no trabajo. El día que íbamos a inaugurar el proyecto Chispa, que era un viernes, ya ese viernes el gobierno decidió cerrar. Cerraron todas las escuelas. Bueno, se me engrifa la piel porque fue muy difícil ver a mi hijo llorar porque él quería inaugurar el proyecto Chispa. Él estaba tan emocionado. Recibimos las capacitaciones, yo estaba muy emocionado porque era algo nuevo para nosotros, era algo nuevo para nuestros hijos, era una nueva aventura. Como reitero, vamos a inaugurar ese proyecto con ayuda de Dios.
Porque mire que con sacrificios hemos estado pagando ese internet, porque no es fácil, no cree ese dinerito uno lo podría invertir para comida o para otras cosas, pero ahorita con esto de esta pandemia, solo así se puede y hemos estado haciendo un sacrificio muy grande. Y con un teléfono nada más, que no es fácil porque se lo presta uno un rato, se lo presta otro. Sí me dio solo como unos 3 días bien fuertecito, pero fui al centro de salud y ahí me dieron el tratamiento y gracias a Dios me mejoré, porque mi esposo hasta ahorita está empezando prácticamente a hacer trabajitos pequeños, porque el año pasado sin eso que no se podía ni salir ni nada, los clientes de él con miedo de que la gente no quiere que vayan a la casa. Tuvieron un tiempo de que repartían así bolsitas de alimentos, ¿me entiendes? Y así Dios nos mandaba, o Dios tocaba a quien Él quería para mandarnos algo. Y la familia, que hay veces que a ella le mandan una cosita a uno, mi suegra y así, porque sin trabajo, solo la mano de Dios ha estado, creo, con toda la mayoría de las personas. Cuando uno menos piensa, cuando ya no tiene nada, luego le dice a Él y Él toca. Y ahí llega una gente con algo para uno. Entonces ahorita está empezando a buscar trabajo, porque tiene una deuda como de 5,000 lempiras ahí en Unitec y tiene que pagar esa deuda para poder, ¿cómo se llama?, sacar sus papeles y seguir estudiando en la UNAM.
Ya que muchos alumnos no tienen la posibilidad de ingresar ni siquiera a la universidad pública. A veces pueden ingresar, pero no tienen los recursos para seguirse manteniendo dentro de la universidad. De hecho, se agradece que ustedes apoyen desde la niñez, porque son la base del país. Ya nosotros somos, digamos, el presente, pero ellos tienen el futuro y las cosas que nosotros no podemos lograr por diversas situaciones, ellos tendrán que hacerse cargo, son los que tienen que reparar algunas situaciones que nosotros podamos dejar, que esperemos que sean dejarles un buen futuro, pero con la situación que está es medio complicado, ¿verdad? Hay un montón de deserción escolar porque los padres se han quedado sin trabajo, no tienen ni para la comida, peor para estar pagando internet para clases. Entonces muchas de las personas, la mayoría de aquí en Honduras, no son dueños, no tienen su propia casa, sino que alquilan. Entonces muchas veces el salario solo está destinado para la comida y para el alquiler.
Hay algunos padres, ¿verdad?, que no tienen los medios suficientes para estar enviando tareas todos los días, entonces ahí es donde un poquito se nos dificulta porque hay que buscar, ¿verdad?, la forma de cómo poder comunicarse con el niño para obtener el trabajo. Es bastante difícil, ¿verdad?, porque imagínense buscar la forma de cómo poder ayudar al niño para que pueda él responder y aprender, ¿verdad?, más que todo.
Sí. Bueno, la situación ha estado un poco tensa, ¿verdad?, y con mucho temor, tanto de parte de los maestros, padres de familia, alumnos, porque hemos tratado de proteger a los niños de la mejor forma posible, de estarlos orientando a través de mensajes, de videos, cómo cuidarse, cómo trabajar, porque para nosotros es algo nuevo. Hasta de repente algunos maestros nunca habíamos tocado una computadora para los niños que no pueden conectarse porque de repente no tienen un celular en su casa y todo eso. Entonces los maestros mandan a través de un correo las tareas a una fotocopiadora de aquí de la colonia para que en físico los padres vengan a retirar. Nosotros decimos como que apadrinamos. Por ejemplo, yo no tengo alumnos, pero yo si una compañera me dice, tengo 3 alumnos que no pueden comprar su material, de repente son 20 lempiras por alumno, entonces no hay problema, yo se lo financio, ¿verdad? Y así todos los compañeros le ayudan a sus alumnos que no pueden.
Bueno, yo la verdad tengo una sobrinita, una sobrinita, como la mamá trabaja, pues yo le ayudo y nos ayuda con el internet. Y así hay vecinos que son más accesibles, ¿va? Y ellos se van a un ladito y hacen, y pues se compra también el paquete. Y pues vamos a salir adelante, no queda ya atrás.
parents' last line of just, this is what we're doing because there's no other way. So in the chat box there, tell me your thoughts. What kind of themes did you hear, or anything that surprised you about what teachers and parents are saying about the educational system right now, or something you may not have thought of if you're not here in Honduras? So there's just a lot of themes that came out that were consistent throughout these women's stories. Anything stick out for anyone that you want to comment there in the chat? So you'll notice a few different themes. First, this idea of education has now become an even more extra cost on parents who are already having difficulties. Every single one of those women, their husbands lost their jobs. And so in order to get the child's schoolwork, they either need to pay for internet access, right? Which means you also have to have a computer or a phone. And the internet access is a prepaid plan, so they can pay for a day's worth of data or whatever. And so that often costs about 75 cents a day for internet access. Or they can pay for these weekly photocopies and have to go somewhere to pick up and drop off the homework. But that also costs about $1 a day. So yeah, this idea that teachers are doing their homework by text messages. So just very, very interesting and different, and yeah, complicated from a lot of different people, right? So I'm going to answer some questions here too. Does the government care, was one of the questions I saw earlier. Yes and no. So politicians here, the government here is generally very corrupt. The current president right now is being accused of having robbed the Social Security system for like $25 million or something like that. And so, sure, they care, but also their children go to private schools. And so there has not been a combined government response or assistance in any of the public schools, even if maybe the local government has done something small, but in all of our schools, we've heard nothing. So that's been pretty wild. So just looking back at comments here, yeah, imagining teachers that have never touched a computer. Our libraries did fine during the hurricanes, thanks to God, as they say here in Spanish, gracias a Dios. And so there's actually not a lot of work in redoing those libraries. The work now is making sure that those books are safe, because yes, a lot of our classrooms are open, and while we've done some things to protect the books from dust, having the books sit for so long is starting to be a problem. And so we are working with schools to help them guard the books from the elements. And with schools closed, is there any access to the library books? Yes and no, and that's what we're going to start talking about right now, is how are we going to take advantage of this already printed resource that kids could take home. A lot of our libraries surprised donors, international donors, to hear that a lot of our libraries are not lending libraries. Already just having books is so new in the culture, and they're so valued because they cost $15 to $20 on average here, that teachers have not wanted to lend them out. And we've had to respect that, because they are the ones in the end that are running them. And so this year, what we're about to talk about, I'll get ahead of myself, is how we want to make sure we take advantage of some of those books and not keep those books locked up for another year. And any other questions I missed here? Yeah, a lot of, extreme poverty, as Tone mentioned, desperation in the voices of trying to put food on the table and having to pick whether you send your kid to school or not. And so we have talked about some hotspots, providing a cellular hotspot, and that has been a solution for some other schools. The problem here and we'll talk a little bit more about that too, is that a lot of our schools don't have access to internet. Like the internet doesn't arrive, doesn't get to some of these schools. That's part of the problem. And then even if we were to put in Wi-Fi, which is a pretty expensive system here in Honduras, we'd also have to make sure every kid had a device to connect to internet. So that hasn't been an answer for us. So what are the answers? And that's what we're gonna look forward to next year. What are we gonna do this year? What have we done? And how do we reach, not even a bookmobile can reach all the different students, especially as the country continues to be at least another year without the vaccine. So bookmobiles are not going, like reading groups are not going to be a way to get together at this point. So what can be done? That is the question. So let's share kind of what we're looking forward to in 2021. And again, Tone is going to explain some of what that looks like and some of our ideas for a pilot program that we are proposing for this year. Feel free to ask questions.
La situación es particularmente difícil especialmente para los docentes, en el sentido que por la falta de estrategias y la falta de indicaciones claras del gobierno de cómo manejar el retorno a clases y la falta de protocolos, ha suspendido la presencia de alumnos y docentes en los centros escolares. Por otra parte, los padres de familia han exigido y han demandado de manera contundente que este año 2021 no van a matricular a sus hijos si el sistema no es mínimo semipresencial, porque el 2020 fue especialmente difícil para muchas familias en las cuales vieron que la educación había caído demasiado, que era un sistema muy complicado y no sostenible. Entonces esto deja en una posición bastante difícil al docente, entre que si no atiende la recomendación de la autoridad en educación puede perder su trabajo, pero si los padres no matriculan a sus hijos, o sea, además de que el problema social de la deserción escolar, que en Honduras no ha sido tan baja, también pueden quedarse sin alumnos a quienes dar clases. Entonces eso es un ingrediente más de esta difícil situación que estamos viviendo.
No, el año pasado por WhatsApp le enviábamos tareas, pero también los visitábamos, los niños que no tenían WhatsApp. Fue difícil porque nosotros teníamos que poner nuestra parte económica, porque teníamos que entregarle ya el folleto como hasta dónde iba a trabajar el niño. Entonces ellos, si nosotros veníamos a decirle que los compraran el folleto, no iban a comprar, porque hay niños que vienen sin dinero y no tienen y no pueden estar sin trabajar. Entonces hoy los estamos atendiendo presencial porque no queremos que nos pase lo que les pasó el año pasado. La compañera de primer grado ya va a llegar a la 40 de matrícula. La compañera que tiene tercero y sexto tiene más de 50 niños. Y ellas están molestas y tienen razón porque ellos ya no caben en el aula. Si la orden está de que las clases deben de ser en línea. Y que nosotros estamos complaciendo a los padres. Nosotros estamos en el nombre de Dios que no se van a contagiar los niños ni nosotros. No, que cada niño consiga su botecito de gel y la mascarilla que no se la quite. Les damos instrucciones de que no se deben de compartir nada en el aula, ni prestar sacapuntas, lápiz, nada.
Muy buenas tardes.
So real quick, just to make sure we all understand, what schools are starting to do is consider being part-time in classes. And so this means that they'll go once a week, once every other week, and at least get some kind of instruction in person, because right now all they're receiving is homework packets with no instruction. And as Tone mentioned at the beginning of this, the problem is that the government is saying you can't be in person, and parents are saying we're not going to enroll our kids if you don't do this. So the principal of the school that we just saw speak is in between this hard place where she's just like, well, guess we're going to reopen because we all need jobs. So now Dunya is going to talk about what then our plan is for helping some of these schools that are going back to school part-time or semi-presencial.
Mi nombre es Dunia Estrada y hoy quiero compartir con ustedes un programa de préstamos que vamos a implementar este año. Pensando en que la situación por la pandemia todavía no se puede normalizar, queremos seguir apoyando a nuestras escuelas y hoy quiero compartirles a ustedes este nuevo programa que tenemos. Vamos a estar trabajando con las escuelas para que puedan prestar libros a los estudiantes y ellos puedan leer en casa. Así que les voy a platicar un poco. Estos son algunos de los libros que nuestras escuelas ya tienen. Este es un programa piloto y por el momento solo vamos a empezar a trabajar con 5 escuelas. Hemos decidido trabajar con estas escuelas porque ellos están trabajando de manera semipresencial. Esto ayuda un poco a que puedan ver a sus estudiantes, aunque sea una vez a la semana o una vez cada 15 días. Al estar en contacto con ellos es más fácil poder prestar estos libros. Los libros, como les dije, ya están en la escuela, entonces los maestros solo van a crear este sistema junto con nosotros para que esos libros puedan llegar a casa. Aquí tenemos unos libros que ya estos tenemos en la escuela, entonces vamos a aprovecharlos este año. Con las escuelas vamos a trabajar para entregar este paquete a cada estudiante. Es una bolsa que tiene un cierre fácil, donde los niños pueden guardar sus cosas. Aquí está el libro de lectura que van a poder llevar hasta casa. Cada niño va a poder llevar su libro y que más le guste. Vamos a incluir dentro de este paquete una hojita para colorear las reglas de la biblioteca. Siempre queremos que cuiden nuestros libros, que cuiden sus libros para que puedan tener mucho más tiempo. Pensando en la bioseguridad, vamos a incluir una mascarilla que es reusable. Nosotros vamos a encargarnos de elaborar estas mascarillas, pedir ayuda para otras personas que también puedan tener un poco de trabajo a elaborar este recurso. Vamos a incluir un libro donde los niños van a poder registrar todos los libros que han leído. Aquí le van a poder poner su nombre, van a poder escribir el título del libro que han leído y para que durante estén leyendo no pierdan la página del libro, vamos a incluir un separador que al momento de leer ellos puedan poner en su libro y recordar en dónde se quedaron. Si se fijan, tiene un dibujo muy llamativo, pero también va a servir para que puedan contestar algunas preguntas sobre el título que acaban de leer. ¿Dónde van a escribir? En este libro. Aquí van a poder llevar su control de cada libro que han podido leer. También vamos a incluir pues un lápiz, un borrador y un sacapunta. Estamos tratando de que este programa llegue a muchas escuelas. Para eso vamos a necesitar que más personas nos ayuden, nos colaboren de diferentes formas. Esperamos poder llegar a todas nuestras escuelas. Por el momento solo empezamos con 5 y esperamos poder avanzar.
Great, so some great questions I'm seeing over here. And so I'll start with those questions. And the answers are yes, yes, and no. So we have donated across the country 35,000 books into about 65 different schools. And so part of our program that we are very proud of is that we do extensive training with the teachers to be able to do activities with the books, to be able so that they can then incorporate reading into their daily regime, into their not only silent reading for the children, but also activities that can relate to the textbooks. When I, as a foreign teacher, think about reading in schools, it seems fairly obvious, but you'll have to remember that this is the first time that children are seeing children's books, and often it's the first time that teachers are having access to children's books. So part of our training is simply, here's how to hold open a book, show the pictures, and how to read out loud. So you'd be surprised at how really back to the basics we have to get in our teacher training. And so we do provide activities. We're not able to provide ones that go with every single book, but the system that we're proposing is a system that allows kids and teachers who aren't generally familiar with books to start having some response to a book without the help of a teacher. So again, we're looking for activities that kids can do at home fairly easily without any instructions. So that is the idea of the bookmark, with some response questions included, and we'll have some different bookmarks depending on the grade level. And those bookmarks then is an activity that they can do with any book that they read. So again, really getting creative and having to think outside of the system, especially as a teacher who is used to including children's literature very obviously in a classroom. Here it is not obvious. It is not, a lot of our teachers aren't good readers. They don't read well. They haven't read well. So it is a huge learning curve. And yes, we do have an extensive array of books. So one of the questions was, are there books that serve multiple areas of, generally books develop reading and thinking skills, analytical skills, but also we do have books that teach some life skills, coping skills. We take what we are able to get, so partly it's in Spanish, but we do have access currently to about 2,200 different titles that are in our office right now, and each school will receive at least 500 different book titles. So within that range, we really try to meet the needs of what they'll be interested in, as well as providing books that reflect the children that they're serving. So not a bunch of white princesses, right? So looking for a variety of characters, as well as values that are related then in those books when possible. But also we just include Captain Underpants because that gets kids reading. So that is our plan for this year. We're really excited to start working with 5 different schools in order to help them implement a system of lending books to home. And in order to do that, we need a few different things. And so let me share this with you. Is returning to school. So Chispa Project has been part of a roundtable of education nonprofits here in Honduras that are pressuring the government to say, really, we cannot afford to lose several years of generations of kids without education. We need to go back to some kind of classes. And the system that we are proposing then is that blended learning format where kids are in school part-time. And so the idea of this campaign is to get kids back to school, however that looks. And we think it takes 3 things. So we've done a lot of polling, we've done a lot of working one-on-one with teacher groups, trying to figure out how we can best support them. And keeping kids in school here means, 1, we need masks for every kid. 2, we need school supplies. Honestly, parents can't afford to pay the packets, they can't afford to pay the internet. We need to get them supplies. And 3, we've got these great resources of books. We've got 35,000 books across the country. How do we lend books to home? Keeping kids in school means we go back to school for $1. Honestly, this stuff is fairly cheap to do. It's just the quantity of kids we want to get back to school. So keeping kids in school means back for $1. This idea that it costs only $1 for a reusable mask. This reusable mask, we have already donated 2,000 of them. And it not only provides a reusable mask for a kid, but it also provides jobs for women here in the country. So that's been really great to be able to provide a job as little as it is for a woman to sew these masks. Keeping kids in school means $1 for school supplies. It's we would like to help donate as part of this pilot program. Donate photocopiers, donate paper. They need gel, hand sanitizer. They need basic school supplies. So what can we do to provide that? And it costs about $1 a kid to get pretty sustainable school supplies. Finally, keeping kids in school means $1 lends a book home. So how do we take advantage of these books that we already have in play across the country? It costs about $1 per kid for us to be able to travel around the country, to provide the training that teachers need, to be able to provide the biosecurity measures needed for parent and teacher volunteers who are going to be lending out these books. And so as you can see here in the picture, it means this plastic bag. And as Dunya talked about, it means a bookmark. It means a little journal that's just dedicated to their reading. And so it costs about $1 to send a book home. So what I'm really excited about is that generosity inspires generosity. Many of you are Chaplain North's readers, and so you saw that in his column, he ran a matching fund campaign. In that matching fund campaign, we raised over $30,000 from just readers, which is incredible. But that generous giving inspired other readers to say, let's start another matching fund that challenges the greater Chispa project community to give also. And so we are just kicking off today this another matching fund that several readers, Chaplain Norris readers, have agreed to match donations up to $10,000. And so giving this next month, will go into these 3 things that we talked about: the masks, lending books home, and school supplies. And for every $1 that you give, your gift will be matched. And so we are going to have twice the impact. And we are, again, just blown away by the generosity, and extreme times currently call for extreme generosity. And so that's just very exciting. We, as a team, are very pumped about some of these new ideas and new ways that we can help students get back to school this year. And so anything you can do to support that is really great. And so keeping kids in school means we need masks for kids, school supplies, and be able to lend books home. So that is all I've got for today. And yeah, any other questions? I think I've answered all the questions that were up above. If I missed something or need me to clarify, let me know. The final part is the place that you can find out more about what we are going to be doing with the Back for a Buck campaign, which is chispaproject.org/help. We will be sending out a link via email if this is if this is something you're interested in. The campaign matching does not only apply to the 5 schools. It kind of depends on how much funding we get from it, but it would at least cover the 5 schools. And so, yeah, Mandy, we can talk about any other matching funds you'd like to do. So my email address, you are welcome to reach out, can be found online if you have any issues. And yeah, so there's my email address. Thank you again so much for attending and talking today. We're really grateful to be able to thank you in person for things you've already done, and just, you know, continue to be grateful for your support and being here today. Oh, someone just asked, do we have any advocates that have the government's ear? So as I mentioned, we're part of that roundtable, but we always could use, if you know anybody, we're always willing to talk again. But the government is a difficult entity to get into. But yeah. All right, thanks folks. I will let you go. And again, please email me if you have any questions, and I will be sending out this presentation in the next couple of days as it has been recorded. Thanks everyone. That's right, we did employ a woman who lost her husband to COVID with the masks, who helped us make more masks. So thanks folks.